Okay, this is chapter 12 of the book of Matthew. This is going to serve a twofold purpose. One, it will give us a clear example of Jesus Christ breaking Mosaic Law. Very plain and very simple in its first understanding. So if we were to view this in a sense as a parable, then the very smallest of intellect of those out there will be able to perceive that Jesus Christ is breaking Jewish law, Jewish tradition. The next thing that it's going to do is it's going to let us understand the fullness of why this grace is not compatible with law, with the dead letter. There's a reason why the letter is called dead. It's because it's not living. Living things adapt. Living things move to the tune of their conditional environment. If not, they fade away. You have to always remember that the real conditional environment that we're in is a creation of the Father. The real conditional environment. Not the deception that we see, but the truth that deception itself tries to cover up. That's the true conditional environment that we find ourselves in. So if the Father himself has created creation, and within that creation is encoded the entire truth of everything, well, would you not think that it was proper for man to be able to adapt the truth to his ever-changing conditional environment? Because that's what the parable does. In this case, the conditional environment is the person's mind. That's right, the environment of perception, the climate of understanding. If somebody's climate of understanding in their mind was contrary to the living word, well, it's because that word acts like water that it doesn't matter what climate of mind that person had, no matter how cold their heart was, that the truth of Jesus Christ would be just fine. Because even when you freeze or crystallize the words of Jesus Christ by creating a cold climate of misunderstanding and tradition-bound interpretation, in a sense, you're philosophically freezing this living word of Jesus Christ. But water itself can't be stopped, even once frozen. That frozen water itself, now that they freeze it, will expand within the mind. It will expand within the mind of those who even held it as doctrine. And when this truth of Jesus Christ, which has been frozen, it has the power to break the bind, to break the bondage, to destroy the current border of tradition of the mind of the person who has tried to crystallize and believe in a dead truth. Now, just because this word, which has now been frozen, is a living water, has the power to expand within the person's mind who has tried to crystallize it, it's still waiting for the flow. It's still waiting for the love. It's still waiting for the compassion of their heart to change, so that word can change with it. Instead of using the cold word as it's influenced by a dead, non-moving, crystallized truth, that's what they're using. They're using cold words. Well, when your heart begins to change by the love of Jesus Christ, so too will these words that come from your mouth, because they are no longer inspired by a frozen, non-moving word. They are inspired by a moving, flowing, life-giving word. But all of this is based upon your ability to receive in the climate of your mind, the climate of your heart. Because if your heart is cold, so too will your perception of the truth that is bound up within you, that has become that doctrine, that has become that tradition, that has disallowed its flow, its progressive flow of understanding. And we're going to find out here in chapter 12 what that's all about.